My name is Carolyn. I'm 28 years old, and I'm staring at security footage on my honeymoon suite laptop that's making my blood run cold. There's my sister Natalie, slipping something into my champagne glass during my $80,000 wedding reception. My heart pounds as I remember the dizzy spells, those terrifying gaps in my memory from what should have been the happiest night of my life. Blake sleeps peacefully beside me, unaware that I've just discovered why I barely remember our first dance. The timestamp reads 8:47 p.m., right before Natalie gave her touching toast about sisterly love. This betrayal cuts deeper than anything I've ever experienced. Before I dive into how this nightmare unfolded, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. If you've ever dealt with family betrayal or toxic siblings, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories. Trust me, what happens next will leave you absolutely speechless, especially when you hear how I got my revenge in front of 300 witnesses. The journey to my wedding day started 18 months before that horrible discovery, when Blake proposed to me at sunset on Huntington Beach. I was over the moon, immediately calling my older sister Natalie to share the news. Her voice on the phone sounded enthusiastic, but something felt off, like she was reading from a script. "Oh wow, Carolyn, that's amazing," she said, but I could hear her grinding her teeth, a habit she'd had since we were kids whenever she was upset. Growing up, Natalie and I had always been competitive, but I thought we'd outgrown it. She was 31, 3 years older, and our parents had always treated her as the responsible one, the golden child who could do no wrong. When I landed my job as a pharmaceutical sales rep making 6 figures, while she struggled as a retail manager at a failing department store, the dynamic shifted. Suddenly, I wasn't just the little sister anymore, and Natalie couldn't handle it. Blake and I had been saving for 3 years for our dream wedding. We both came from middle-class families who couldn't contribute much, so we scrimped and saved every penny. When we finally had our budget of $80,000, we were so proud. We'd earned every cent through hard work and sacrifice. The first person I told about our budget was Natalie, expecting her to be happy for us. Instead, she laughed. $80,000. For one day. That's more than I make in 2 years, Carolyn. Some people have real problems, you know. Despite my best friend Rachel's warnings, I asked Natalie to be my maid of honor. "She's still my sister," I told Rachel over coffee one afternoon. "Maybe this will bring us closer together." Rachel stirred her latte and gave me that look she reserved for when I was being naive. "Carolyn, she told your entire book club you only got promoted because you slept with your boss. Are you sure about this?" But I was determined to have the perfect wedding with my whole family involved. From the moment Natalie accepted the role, though, she began her campaign of sabotage. Every vendor I chose was too expensive, or trying to scam you. When I found my dream dress, a stunning Vera Wang creation that I'd saved for specifically, she wrinkled her nose. "It makes your arms look huge. Have you considered something with sleeves?" The passive-aggressive comments escalated as the wedding approached. She'd suggest cheaper alternatives for everything, from the photographer to the flowers. "I'm just trying to help you save money," she'd say with fake concern. "Blake's a teacher. You sure he's okay with you spending his entire salary on flowers that'll die in a day?" When I reminded her that we were paying for everything ourselves and had budgeted carefully, she'd roll her eyes and mutter about some people's priorities. The bachelorette party should have been my first real red flag. Natalie had insisted on planning everything, promising an unforgettable weekend in Vegas. My 10 closest friends had all requested time off work, bought flights, and booked hotel rooms. 3 days before we were supposed to leave, Natalie called me crying. "Oh my God, Carolyn, I'm so stupid. I accidentally booked everything for next month. I don't know how this happened. The reservations were all non-refundable, and mysteriously, she'd used a prepaid card, so we couldn't even dispute the charges. When I confronted her about the mistake, our mother Gloria immediately jumped to her defense. Natalie's been under so much stress at work, she said during our family dinner. She's doing her best to help you. Maybe you should be more grateful instead of attacking her over an honest mistake. Dad, as usual, stayed silent, disappointed but unwilling to take sides. I'd grown used to this dynamic, where Natalie could do no wrong, and I was always the difficult one. 2 weeks before the wedding, I discovered Natalie had been calling my vendors behind my back. The florist mentioned it casually during our final consultation. Your sister called yesterday, saying you wanted to change to carnations instead of roses. I told her any changes had to come from you directly. My caterer had received similar calls about downgrading the menu to something more reasonable. Even my photographer had gotten a call suggesting I wanted to cut the videography package to save money. But I pushed forward, determined not to let her ruin my special day. Blake supported me through every frustration, reminding me that soon we'd be married and starting our own family traditions. Maybe she's jealous, he said one night as I cried into my wedding planning binder. You're younger, successful, and marrying someone who adores you. That's got to sting for someone who's been the favorite child their whole life. His words made sense, but they didn't make Natalie's behavior any less hurtful. I had no idea how much worse things would get. The morning of my wedding dawned bright and clear, one of those perfect California days that made the venue's $20,000 price tag worth every penny. My bridal suite buzzed with activity as my bridesmaids arrived for hair and makeup. Everyone was there except Natalie. She finally strolled in 45 minutes late, iced coffee in hand, claiming traffic even though she lived closer to the venue than anyone else. You know how the 4:05 gets, she said breezily, not apologizing for keeping the makeup artist waiting. Sophie, my photographer, pulled me aside while Natalie was getting her hair done. I don't want to cause drama on your big day, but your sister's been making some comments, she whispered. She told me you'd probably be too drunk to get through the ceremony and asked if I could Photoshop her into some of your solo shots later. My stomach churned, but I forced a smile. This was my wedding day. I wouldn't let Natalie ruin it. The morning's chaos escalated when Natalie suddenly shrieked from the changing room. My dress ripped. Oh my God, the zipper just exploded. She emerged holding her bridesmaid dress, which did indeed have a broken zipper. Suspiciously, the break looked clean, like it had been cut rather than torn. Everyone had to stop what they were doing to focus on fixing Natalie's dress, putting us 30 minutes behind schedule. My makeup artist had to rush through my final touches, and I didn't get the calm, peaceful preparation time I'd dreamed of. My best friend Emma caught Natalie red-handed trying to switch the place cards at the reception during cocktail hour. She was moving your boss next to your crazy Uncle Ted, Emma reported. I stopped her and fixed everything, but Carolyn, you need to watch her. She's up to something. I wanted to confront Natalie, but the ceremony was starting in 10 minutes. I had to push my suspicions aside and focus on marrying Blake. The ceremony itself was beautiful. I managed to hold back tears as I walked down the aisle to Canon in D, my dad squeezing my arm reassuringly. Blake's face, when he saw me, made every stress of the past 18 months worthwhile. During the vows, I noticed Natalie dabbing at her eyes dramatically, making sure the photographer captured her emotional moment. Several relatives commented on what a devoted sister she was. If only they knew. The reception started smoothly. Blake and I shared our first dance to At Last by Etta James, and for those 4 minutes, everything was perfect. The food was delicious, the band was amazing, and our guests seemed to be having a wonderful time. I finally started to relax, thinking maybe I'd been paranoid about Natalie's intentions. That feeling of security lasted exactly until 8:30 p.m. I was sitting at the head table, listening to Blake's brother give his best man speech, when the room started to tilt slightly. I'd only had 2 glasses of champagne with dinner, spacing them out carefully, because I wanted to remember every moment. But suddenly, I felt like I'd consumed an entire bottle. My mouth felt cotton dry, and focusing on Connor's words became increasingly difficult. Natalie appeared at my elbow immediately, another glass of champagne in her hand. "You look pale, sweetie. Here, take a sip. Wedding jitters, right?" She hovered around me for the next 20 minutes, unusually attentive and sisterly. Every time I tried to stand, she'd guide me back to my chair. "You need to save your energy for the rest of the reception," she cooed. My brain felt foggy, but alarm bells were going off somewhere in the back of my mind. This wasn't normal. This wasn't wedding jitters, or even champagne. Something was very, very wrong. At 8:47 p.m., the moment I wouldn't discover until days later on the security footage, Natalie made her move. While pretending to adjust my veil, she crushed something into my champagne glass with practiced ease. The way she did it, blocking the view with her body while smiling and chatting with our cousin, showed this wasn't spontaneous. She'd planned this. She'd brought whatever substance it was to my wedding specifically to drug me. When it was time for the toasts, I could barely keep my head up. Natalie took the microphone with tears streaming down her face, delivering a speech about sisterhood and love that had our relatives reaching for tissues. "Carolyn has always been more than just my little sister," she said, voice cracking with fake emotion. "She's my best friend, my confidant, my inspiration. Watching her find true love with Blake fills my heart with joy." The room erupted in applause while I struggled to keep my eyes open, the words echoing strangely in my drugged mind. When it came time for my speech, disaster struck. My carefully prepared words came out slurred and confused. I saw the looks exchanged between guests, the whispers behind hands. The bride was drunk. How embarrassing. Blake tried to help me, but Natalie intercepted. "She's just overwhelmed," she announced to nearby tables. "You know how Carolyn gets when she's had a bit too much champagne. Always been a lightweight." She said it with such practiced concern that people nodded sympathetically. I have no memory of the father-daughter dance I'd been looking forward to since I was 6 years old. The photographer later showed me beautiful pictures of Dad and me swaying to "The Way You Look Tonight," but that precious memory was stolen from me. Apparently, I stumbled several times, and Dad had to practically carry me through it. Uncle Henry, my mother's brother who never missed a chance to be cruel, made sure everyone heard his commentary. $80,000 for a wedding and the bride can't stay sober. Money can't buy class. By 10 p.m., I couldn't fight anymore. The room spun violently, and I knew I was going to be sick. Blake half carried me to our honeymoon suite, while 200 guests watched. I missed the bouquet toss, the cake cutting we'd practiced, the sparkler send-off we'd planned. My wedding ended with me unconscious in bed while the party continued without me. The next morning, I woke up with no hangover but a deep sense of loss. Something had gone terribly wrong, and the fog in my memory wasn't from alcohol. But it would be days before I'd discover the truth. Our honeymoon in Turks and Caicos should have been paradise. Blake and I had booked an overwater bungalow at a 5-star resort, complete with a glass floor to watch the tropical fish swim beneath us. But I couldn't shake the dark cloud hanging over me from the wedding. Every time I tried to piece together the reception, huge chunks were missing. Blake was patient and understanding, but I could see the concern in his eyes when he thought I wasn't looking. Maybe you just had more to drink than you realized, he suggested gently on our third day, as we sat on our private deck watching the sunset. The stress of planning everything, the excitement of the day. It happens. But I knew my body. I knew my limits. 2 glasses of champagne over 4 hours shouldn't have left me nearly unconscious, with memory gaps that felt like black holes in my mind. The worst part was learning what our guests had said. Blake tried to shield me from it, but his mother Beth had sent a text asking if I was feeling better, and mentioning that several relatives were concerned about my drinking problem. His cousin had made a Facebook post about the wedding that mentioned the drama with the bride. Every time Blake's phone buzzed, I wondered what new humiliation was being shared about my behavior. On day 5 of our honeymoon, everything changed. Sophie, our photographer, sent an email with a link to download all the wedding photos and videos. I included everything I shot, her message read. Even the candid moments during setup and behind-the-scenes footage. I figured you might want it all for your personal collection. Blake and I cuddled up on the couch in our bungalow, laptop balanced between us, ready to relive our special day. The ceremony footage was beautiful. I cried watching Blake's face as I walked down the aisle. The cocktail hour looked elegant and fun. Then we got to the reception footage. I watched myself during Blake's brother's speech, saw the exact moment things went wrong. My posture changed, my eyes became unfocused, and then there was Natalie, appearing with champagne like a vulture circling wounded prey. "Wait," Blake said suddenly. "Go back. What's she doing there?" He'd noticed something I'd missed. We rewound and watched Natalie approach my table from the left side, partially hidden behind the flower arrangements. That's when we saw it. Clear as day, despite the artistic mood lighting, Natalie's hand moving over my champagne glass, crushing something into it with her thumb. The timestamp glowed in the corner, 8:47 p.m. We watched it 6 times to be sure. Each viewing made it more obvious. The way she used her body to block other guests' view. The practiced motion of adding the substance. The calculated smile as she handed me the glass. This wasn't spontaneous. This was premeditated. My own sister had drugged me at my wedding. Blake's face went from confused to furious in seconds. "I'm calling the police. Right now. She drugged you. That's assault. She could have killed you." I stopped him, my mind racing. "Wait. I need to understand why first. What could she possibly gain from this?" We spent the next 2 hours going through all the footage with new eyes. Natalie appeared constantly, always near me, always watching. In one clip, she told my cousin Marie that I had a secret drinking problem, and she was trying to keep me under control. In another, she suggested to Blake's grandmother that I might need professional help. When we returned home, I called my best friend Emma immediately. "I knew something was wrong," she said after I told her about the video. "Carolyn, there's more you need to know. After you left the reception, Natalie held court at the bar. She told everyone you'd been struggling with alcohol for months and the wedding stress pushed you over the edge. She even said she'd tried to stage an intervention, but you refused help. The betrayal cut so deep I couldn't breathe. But Emma wasn't finished. Remember when you didn't get that promotion last year? The one that went to someone with half your experience. Natalie called your boss. My friend in HR told me. She expressed concern about your mental stability and mentioned you'd been drinking at lunch. Which was a complete lie, but it planted doubt. I hung up feeling numb, then called my mother. Gloria's reaction was predictable and infuriating. "That's quite an accusation, Carolyn. Are you sure you're not misinterpreting what you saw?" Natalie would never do something like that. Maybe you should talk to someone about these paranoid thoughts. Even with video evidence, she defended Natalie. Some things never changed. Over the next week, I pieced together years of sabotage I'd been too blind to see. In high school, Natalie had pursued my crush Daniel Wright, after I confided in her about my feelings. She told him I was too immature to date and swooped in herself. They dated for 6 months while I watched heartbroken from the sidelines. I'd thought it was just bad timing. Now I saw the pattern. In college, my scholarship essay for grad school mysteriously disappeared from my computer the night before it was due. Natalie had been visiting and used my laptop. She helped me rewrite it frantically, but the rushed version wasn't nearly as good. I didn't get the scholarship, and had to take out loans instead. She'd consoled me, saying it was probably for the best since grad school would have been too stressful anyway. The job interview sabotage Emma mentioned wasn't isolated. When I'd applied for my current position, the hiring manager mentioned they'd received an anonymous tip about my unprofessional social media behavior. I'd had to defend myself against fake screenshots someone had sent. The job offer came through, but my starting salary was lower because of the concerns. Natalie had been the only person who knew I was applying there. The pattern was clear and devastating. For over 15 years, my own sister had been systematically trying to destroy my happiness. Every success I achieved despite her interference must have enraged her further. And now, on what should have been the happiest day of my life, she'd executed her most vicious attack yet. But why? What could drive someone to such calculated cruelty against their own sister? I was about to find out. Blake and I sat across from Diana Chen in her downtown office, the morning sun casting shadows through the blinds. Diana came highly recommended, a private investigator who specialized in family fraud cases. I've seen situations like this before, she said, reviewing the wedding footage on her laptop. Family members who drug relatives usually have financial motives. Let me dig into your sister's background. Her retainer was $5,000, money we'd earmarked for furniture, but Blake insisted. This is about your safety now, not just revenge. Within a week, Diana had uncovered a goldmine of information. Natalie's life was a carefully constructed facade hiding massive financial problems. She owed $42,000 across 8 credit cards, had defaulted on a car loan, and was 3 months behind on rent. Her retail manager salary couldn't begin to cover her minimum payments. She'd been shopping her debt around to various family members, all of whom had refused to bail her out. Here's where it gets interesting, Diana said during our second meeting, sliding a folder across her desk. 2 weeks before your wedding, Natalie searched extensively for information about wedding insurance fraud. She visited forums discussing how to file claims for vendor issues and disrupted receptions. She even downloaded forms for claiming emotional distress damages. My blood ran cold as I realized what she'd planned. The investigation revealed Natalie's scheme in sickening detail. By drugging me and making me appear intoxicated, she planned to claim the venue overserved alcohol to the bride. As my sister and maid of honor, she'd position herself as the concerned family member seeking justice. The potential lawsuit against the venue and their insurance could yield a 6-figure settlement. She'd already researched lawyers who worked on contingency for such cases. Diana had managed to track down cousin Marie, who'd been avoiding my calls since the wedding. Under pressure, Marie agreed to meet us at a quiet coffee shop in Pasadena. She looked exhausted, guilt etched across her face. Natalie made it sound like she was trying to help you, Marie began, nervously shredding her napkin. She said you'd been secretly drinking for months, and if she could document it at the wedding, your family could do an intervention and get you help. Marie's full confession was damning. Natalie had recruited her to secretly video my drunken behavior at the reception for evidence. She'd promised Marie they'd use it only for family intervention purposes. But Marie had watched me all night and seen nothing but a happy bride having a controlled celebration, until suddenly I could barely stand. "That's when I knew something was really wrong," she said, tears streaming. "You went from completely sober to nearly unconscious in minutes." I refused to film anything and told Natalie I was done. But there was more. Marie revealed that during wedding planning, Natalie had stolen several pieces of jewelry from my apartment. "She showed them to me, said you'd given them to her, but I recognized your grandmother's pearl necklace. The one from your 16th birthday. She sold it to a pawn shop in Koreatown. That necklace had been worth $3,000, a family heirloom I'd blamed myself for misplacing during the wedding chaos. Our parents' 30th anniversary party 2 years ago had been another scene of sabotage. I'd spent weeks planning the surprise gathering, coordinating with 60 guests, and arranging catering from their favorite restaurant. The morning of the party, I'd gotten severe food poisoning and couldn't attend. Natalie stepped in as the hero, claiming she'd planned everything as backup. Our parents still praised her thoughtfulness. Diana showed me medical records indicating the symptoms I'd experienced matched ipecac poisoning, not food poisoning. "Your sister has a pattern of pharmaceutical theft," Diana revealed. She was caught stealing prescription samples at her previous job at a medical clinic, but wasn't prosecuted because she returned them and claimed it was a misunderstanding. She knows exactly what various medications do and how to use them. The Rohypnol-like substance she'd used at my wedding was likely stolen from that clinic before she was fired. Even childhood memories took on sinister new meaning. When I was 12, my science fair project on solar energy had mysteriously broken the night before judging. Natalie helped me cobble together a last-minute replacement that earned third place instead of the first place my original would have likely won. When I got the lead in our high school play, I lost my voice the day before opening night. Natalie, my understudy, performed beautifully in my place. Blake's mother Beth, a retired teacher who'd always been observant, shared her own suspicions when we invited her for dinner. "I've watched Natalie at family gatherings for 3 years," she said. "She monitors your every success with predatory focus. When you announced your promotion, she gripped her wine glass so hard I thought it would shatter. This isn't normal sibling rivalry. This is pathological jealousy." We compiled everything into a comprehensive timeline. 15 years of systematic attacks designed to undermine my confidence, sabotage my achievements, and isolate me from potential allies. Each incident alone seemed like bad luck or minor family drama. Together, they painted a picture of calculated destruction by someone who was supposed to love and protect me. Blake suggested we take everything to the police immediately. We had evidence of assault, theft, fraud, and conspiracy. But I had a different plan forming. Natalie had humiliated me in front of 300 guests, making me look like an unstable drunk at my own wedding. Legal justice would happen behind closed doors. I wanted something more public, more fitting. I wanted everyone to see exactly who Natalie really was. "What are you thinking?" Diana asked, recognizing the look on my face. I smiled for the first time since discovering the truth. "I'm thinking about hosting a party. A wedding redo where I can actually remember the toasts. And I think my dear sister should definitely give another speech." Diana and Blake exchanged glances, then Diana leaned forward. "I'm listening. What do you need from me?" 3 months after our wedding, I announced on social media that Blake and I were hosting a wedding redo celebration. My post was carefully crafted, Since I was battling food poisoning during our reception and missed so many special moments, we want to gather our loved ones again to properly celebrate. Same guest list, new memories. The responses poured in, mostly sympathetic comments about how awful it must have been to be sick on my wedding day. Natalie was among the first to comment. Can't wait to celebrate my baby sister properly this time. The next phase required Oscar-worthy acting skills. I called Natalie and apologized for being distant since the wedding. I've been so embarrassed about getting sick at the reception, I said, forcing tears into my voice. Everyone probably thinks I was drunk. Thank you for taking care of me and not letting it ruin the whole night. I could practically hear her smiling through the phone. Oh sweetie, no one thinks that. Everyone knows you just had too much excitement and champagne. It happens to the best of us. Over the following weeks, I played the role of forgiving sister perfectly. We went shopping together, where I let her pick out a new dress for the party on my credit card. During lunch afterward, I steered the conversation toward the wedding. I barely remember your toast, I said wistfully. Would you mind giving another one at the redo? I'd love to actually be present for it this time. Her eyes lit up with malicious delight. Of course. I've actually thought of even more beautiful things to say about our bond. Meanwhile, Blake's brother Connor, a software engineer, helped us set up a sophisticated recording system. Hidden cameras were placed strategically around the venue, all feeding to a central system he could control from his laptop. Broadcasting capability? I asked during our planning session. Absolutely, Connor confirmed. I can push any feed to the main screens instantly. Just give me the signal. Our team grew to include Emma, Sophie, cousin Marie, desperate to make amends, and Diana, who continued gathering evidence. Each person had a specific role in what we'd dubbed Operation Toast. Emma would manage the guest list, ensuring all of Natalie's past victims received invitations. Sophie would document everything with her professional equipment. Marie would stay close to Natalie, keeping her calm and unsuspecting. Diana would coordinate with law enforcement for the finale. I made sure to be seen reconciling with Natalie publicly. We had lunch with our mother, where I gushed about how grateful I was for Natalie's support. I don't know what I would have done without her at the wedding, I said, squeezing Natalie's hand. She really saved the day when I got sick. Gloria beamed, thrilled her daughters were getting along. See? I knew you two would work things out. Family is everything. The guest list for the redo party was carefully curated. Along with our original wedding guests, I made sure to invite everyone Natalie had wronged over the years. Lisa, her former roommate whose fiancé Natalie had seduced. Paula, the high school friend Natalie had framed for cheating on their SATs. Derek, our cousin whose signature she'd forged on a $5,000 loan application. Each received a personal call from me with a hint that they wouldn't want to miss this particular party. 2 weeks before the event, Natalie let her guard down completely during one of our shopping trips. After a few mimosas at brunch, she started reminiscing about the wedding. You know, you really should thank me, she said, examining her nails. Do you know how uptight you looked during the first half of the reception? I helped you loosen up. Everyone had more fun once you relaxed. I kept my expression neutral while Emma, sitting at the next table, recorded every word on her phone. Connor's AV setup was tested multiple times to ensure flawless execution. We had the security footage from the wedding, Diana's evidence files, Marie's confession, and various audio recordings all queued up and ready. The venue's event coordinator was briefed on potential disruption, but assured us their security team could handle any situation. After what happened at your wedding, we want this event to be perfect, she said. If only she knew what we had planned. Natalie threw herself into writing her new toast with enthusiasm. She practiced it for me over the phone, each version more saccharine than the last. "I want to talk about how adversity brings sisters together," she said. "How through all of life's challenges, we've always had each other's backs." The irony was so thick I had to mute the phone to avoid laughing bitterly. She had no idea she was writing her own confession. 3 days before the party, we held a final planning meeting at Blake's parents' house. Diana confirmed law enforcement would be present, but remain outside until signaled. Sophie had compiled a devastating video montage of evidence. Emma reported that over 20 of Natalie's victims had confirmed attendance. "They all have stories," she said. "Some worse than what she did to you." Marie looked sick as she shared Natalie's latest comments. "She told me she might accidentally spill wine on your dress during her toast. She thinks it would be hilarious. The trap was set perfectly. 300 guests would witness the truth about Natalie exposed in excruciating detail. But I still had moments of doubt. This was my sister, someone I'd shared a childhood with, who'd been part of every major moment of my life. Then I'd remember waking up in my honeymoon suite, having missed half my wedding reception. I'd think about the jobs lost, the relationships sabotaged, the memories stolen. No, Natalie had chosen this path. Now she'd face the consequences. The morning of the party, I received a text from Natalie. "Can't wait for tonight, sis. I have a surprise planned for my toast that everyone will remember forever." She had no idea how prophetic those words would prove to be. As Blake and I drove to the venue, he took my hand. "Are you sure about this? We can still call it off. Just have a normal party." I squeezed his fingers and shook my head. "She stole our wedding from us. From me. Tonight, everyone learns the truth." The venue glittered with soft lighting and white roses, an elegant space overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Guests began arriving at 6 p.m., greeting Blake and me with warm hugs and comments about how radiant I looked. "So much better than the wedding when you were ill," Blake's aunt remarked. I smiled graciously, noting how many people mentioned my supposed illness rather than drunkenness. Perhaps not everyone had believed Natalie's version of events after all. Natalie made her entrance fashionably late, as expected, wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than her monthly rent. She'd clearly spent hours on her hair and makeup, ready for her spotlight moment. She air-kissed me dramatically in front of several guests. "There's my beautiful sister. Ready for your big redo." Her performance was flawless, the devoted sister everyone believed her to be. I matched her energy, gushing about how perfect she looked and how excited I was for her toast. During cocktail hour, I watched Natalie work the room like a politician. She made sure to speak with all the important guests, particularly those with influence or money. I overheard her telling my boss about her management experience, and how she was looking for new opportunities. She cornered Blake's wealthy uncle to pitch a business idea she needed investors for. Every interaction was calculated, transactional, designed to benefit her somehow. Dinner service began at 7:30. And I made sure Natalie was seated at a prominent table where everyone could see her. I'd barely touched my champagne, making a show of switching to water frequently. Several guests noticed and complimented my responsible drinking, memories of the wedding clearly still fresh. Natalie, meanwhile, consumed glass after glass of wine, getting louder and more animated as the evening progressed. As we approached toast time, Connor gave me a subtle thumbs up from his station near the AV equipment. Everything was ready. Emma had strategically placed Natalie's victims at tables with clear sightlines to both the main screen and Natalie's table. Diana stood near the exit, phone in hand, ready to make the call. Marie sat next to Natalie, keeping her distracted with conversation about her toast. Blake's brother stood first for his best man toast, keeping it short and sweet as planned. Then I took the microphone, smiling warmly at the crowd. Before my sister gives her toast, I wanted to share something special with all of you. As you know, I was quite ill during our wedding reception and missed capturing many memories. Thankfully, our wonderful photographer Sophie documented everything, including some behind-the-scenes moments I've only recently seen. The lights dimmed as the first video began playing on the large screens around the room. Beautiful shots of the ceremony, the cocktail hour, early reception moments. Guests smiled and murmured appreciatively. Then the timestamp appeared, 8:47 p.m. The footage zoomed in, crystal clear, showing Natalie crushing pills into my champagne. Gasps erupted around the room. Someone dropped a glass. The video repeated in slow motion, leaving no doubt about what everyone was witnessing. Natalie shot to her feet, face draining of color. That's edited. That's not real. But Connor was already playing the next clip, Diana's evidence presentation. Financial records flashed on screen. Google searches about wedding insurance fraud. Text messages between Natalie and Marie about documenting my drunken behavior. The room had gone completely silent except for the damning evidence playing out for all to see. When Natalie tried to rush toward the AV equipment, Blake stepped smoothly into her path. "I don't think so," he said calmly. "Everyone deserves to know the truth." The presentation continued with audio recordings. Natalie bragging about helping me loosen up. Her confession to Marie about planning to sue the venue. Her phone calls to my employers, my landlord, my friends, spreading lies designed to destroy my reputation and relationships. Then came the testimonials. Lisa stood up first, voice shaking but determined. Natalie seduced my fiancé 2 weeks before our wedding. She filmed them together and sent me the video on what should have been my wedding day. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Paula followed. She planted Adderall in my backpack and reported me for drug dealing. I lost my scholarship and nearly got expelled. Derek's revelation about the forged loan documents that nearly ruined his credit brought angry exclamations from several family members. The final video was Marie's full confession, filmed by Diana in her office. She detailed Natalie's entire plan, from the drugging to the insurance fraud to the systematic destruction of my life over 15 years. By the time it finished, Natalie stood isolated in the center of the room, every eye fixed on her with disgust and horror. Even our mother sat frozen, hand over her mouth, unable to defend her favorite daughter against such overwhelming evidence. "You set me up," Natalie screamed, mascara streaming down her face. "You planned this whole thing to humiliate me." I took the microphone back, my voice steady and clear. "I planned this to show everyone exactly who you are. You drugged me at my wedding. You tried to destroy my life for 15 years. You stole from me, lied about me, sabotaged every good thing that ever happened to me. Why, Natalie? What did I ever do to deserve that kind of hatred from my own sister?" Her response chilled the room. "You were born. You existed. Everything came so easy to you while I had to fight for scraps of attention. Pretty little Carolyn with her perfect grades and perfect job and perfect husband. You had everything I was supposed to have." The mask had finally slipped completely, revealing the vicious, envious creature beneath. Several guests stood to leave, unable to watch anymore. That's when Diana stepped forward with 2 uniformed police officers. "Natalie Morrison, you're under arrest for assault, fraud, and theft." The officers approached with handcuffs as Natalie backed away, still screaming. "You can't do this. I'm her sister. Family doesn't do this to each other." The irony of her words wasn't lost on anyone. She'd spent over a decade destroying me while hiding behind the protection of family bonds. As the officers led her away, our mother finally found her voice. "Carolyn, please, don't let them take her. She's your sister." I looked at the woman who'd enabled Natalie's behavior our entire lives and felt only pity. She stopped being my sister the day she decided to poison me. Family doesn't drug each other, Mom. Family doesn't systematically destroy each other's lives. You taught her she could do anything without consequences. Well, here are the consequences. The room erupted in supportive applause as Natalie was escorted out in handcuffs. Blake pulled me into his arms as guests surrounded us with hugs and words of support. My boss apologized for believing Natalie's lies. Blake's family expressed horror at what we'd endured. Even relatives, who'd always favored Natalie, admitted they'd been blind to her true nature. The victory was complete, but it tasted bittersweet. I'd lost a sister, even if she'd never really been one to begin with. The aftermath of Natalie's arrest sent shockwaves through our extended family. She was charged with multiple counts of assault, fraud, attempted grand theft, and conspiracy. Her lawyer tried to argue for dismissal based on family conflict, but the video evidence and multiple witness testimonies were undeniable. 3 months later, she accepted a plea deal, 18 months in state prison and 5 years probation, plus mandatory psychological counseling and restitution for the stolen jewelry and wedding costs. Our parents' reaction evolved slowly and painfully. Dad called me the day after Natalie's sentencing, his voice broken. "I failed you, Carolyn. 4 years. I watched her hurt you and did nothing because I didn't want to upset your mother or cause family drama. I chose peace over protecting you, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life." His apology didn't erase the years of pain, but it began to heal something I didn't realize was broken inside me. Mom's journey took longer. She initially tried to visit Natalie every week in prison, but Natalie's rage toward the entire family made even her question what she'd enabled. 6 months into Natalie's sentence, Gloria finally agreed to family therapy. During our 3rd session, she broke down completely. "I created a monster," she sobbed. "I was so afraid of being unfair that I overcorrected, always taking her side, always making excuses. I thought I was being a good mother, but I was just teaching her that she could hurt others without consequences." The therapy sessions revealed deeper family dynamics we'd never addressed. Mom had grown up with a younger sister who'd outshone her in everything, creating a deep insecurity she'd projected onto Natalie. She'd seen me as a threat to Natalie rather than as another daughter who deserved equal love and protection. Understanding the root causes didn't excuse the favoritism, but it helped me release some of my anger and resentment. Blake and I started our own therapy journey, working through the trauma of the wedding and its aftermath. I struggled with hypervigilance, constantly checking my drinks, suspicious of any unexpected kindness. Trust, even with well-meaning people, became difficult. My therapist specialized in family trauma and helped me understand that Natalie's actions were about her own inadequacy and envy, not any failing on my part. "You succeeded despite her sabotage," she reminded me. "That's a testament to your strength, not luck." Professionally, my life flourished without Natalie's interference. When my boss learned about the lies Natalie had spread, he personally apologized and fast-tracked me for a senior position. My sales numbers soared when I wasn't constantly dealing with manufactured crises. Within a year, I was running my own team and earning double my previous salary. Success felt different now, sweeter but also more precarious, as if Natalie might appear to snatch it away even from behind bars. Blake and I decided to start trying for a family 18 months after the wedding redo. When I found out I was pregnant, my first emotion wasn't joy but fear. How could I protect this child from toxic family members? How could I ensure they never experienced the betrayal I'd endured? Blake found me crying over the positive pregnancy test, not from happiness, but from terror about repeating destructive patterns. We made hard decisions about boundaries. Natalie would have no access to our child, regardless of biological connection. Mom and Dad could be involved only if they continued therapy and respected our rules. Any mention of poor Natalie, or attempts to minimize what she'd done would result in immediate no contact. It felt harsh, but protecting our child from toxic dynamics was non-negotiable. Support came from unexpected places. A Facebook group for survivors of sibling abuse became my lifeline during pregnancy. Reading others' stories helped me realize I wasn't alone or crazy for cutting off a family member. We shared resources, validated each other's experiences, and celebrated milestones of healing together. Several members had similar stories of golden child siblings who'd sabotaged them for decades before consequences finally arrived. When our daughter Lily was born, I felt a fierce protectiveness I'd never experienced. Looking at her perfect face, I promised she'd never question whether she was loved equally or fairly. If we had more children, each would know their worth wasn't comparative but absolute. The cycle of favoritism and enabling that had created Natalie would end with Blake and me. We'd build a new kind of family, one based on genuine love and healthy boundaries. Natalie was released after serving 14 months. She moved to Portland, supposedly for a fresh start. We learned through family channels that she was working at a cannabis dispensary and living in a studio apartment. She sent one letter attempting to reconcile, full of blame-shifting and minimization. "I hope you're happy ruining my life over a prank that went too far," she wrote. I burned it without responding. Some bridges, once torched, should stay ash. 2 years after the wedding, Blake surprised me with a vow renewal ceremony on the beach where he'd proposed. Just 20 people attended. Our true friends and the family members who'd shown genuine support. Emma stood as my maid of honor, crying happy tears as we exchanged rings again. This time, I remembered every moment. Every word, every kiss, every dance. No one could steal these memories from me. The experience taught me valuable lessons about trusting intuition and setting boundaries. Red flags I'd dismissed as family quirks were actually warning signs of serious dysfunction. Now I teach Lily to trust her gut feelings about people, even family members. Love doesn't require accepting abuse. Blood relation doesn't grant unlimited access to your life. These truths, learned through pain, will hopefully spare her similar suffering. Sometimes I wonder what Natalie's life might have been if she'd channeled her intelligence and determination into building her own success, instead of tearing down mine. But that's her tragedy, not my burden. I survived her campaign of destruction and emerged stronger, surrounded by people who truly love me. That's the best revenge of all, living well, living freely, and living without her shadow darkening my days. Looking back, the wedding disaster became an unexpected gift. Without it, Natalie might have continued her sabotage indefinitely, always subtle enough to avoid consequences. Her greed and overconfidence in drugging me created evidence that finally exposed her true nature. Every happy moment in my life now feels earned and precious, because I know what it cost to protect them. And that's worth more than any perfect wedding could ever be. Thank you for joining me on this journey of betrayal, discovery, and ultimately, triumph. If you've experienced similar family toxicity, I want you to know you're not alone and you deserve better. Please share your own stories in the comments below, and let's support each other in breaking free from destructive family patterns. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life tales of overcoming adversity. And if you know someone struggling with a toxic sibling or family member, share this video with them. Sometimes knowing others have survived similar situations provides the hope we need to save ourselves. Until next time, remember, your peace of mind is worth more than any relationship, even with blood relatives. Stay strong and protect your joy fiercely.